Hello, hello. Yes, sorry. Few people are still coming in, but I think I would like to start the evening. We have a lot of very interesting speakers today, so we need to...
Editor of a newspaper called Avaz, which is published in the UK as well as in Pakistan. He writes on topics of politics and security for different Pakistani newspapers. He is based in Brussels. He will talk about the situation, the current situation in the Middle East, as well as the impact of the crisis in Europe, the policies within Europe, and the representation of the conflict in news and media. Welcome, Mr. Imran Saqib.
Thanks to the organizers to give me this opportunity to speak on very hot issue, the situation in the Middle East and its impact on Europe. This is important to know that what's going on in the neighborhood of Europe, when very less people can imagine that what can happen in coming few years. I will share some news with you, and I'm sure that you all distinguished guests and panelists are following that news being published in Europe and especially in Belgian newspapers. Just 1 week ago, there was a news that 12 Belgian youngsters died in Syria in fighting against Bashar al-Assad. And one Belgian journalist also sent a news that several hundred youngsters, they belong to Europe, they are still fighting over there. And Mr. Van Doren, the intelligence chief of Belgium, he said in one interview to a local television that we don't know who those guys are, but that we know that when they will come back, they will be dangerous for the society. And one imam of a local mosque, he also gave a news that a few of them are back. So danger is there. Just 3 weeks ago, there was a news that in Anderlecht, that's a community town hall of Brussels, police raid at a home, and that was a house of an Algerian person. And they got from there heavy machine guns, grenades, and some explosive material. And we don't know how many others have the same stuff in their homes. We have to think about that. Is this due to European wrong policy, or there is something else in the bottom? Why this extremism until this level is coming on the board? If you see shortly in the Arab Spring and situation over there, in Tunisia, it was started due to discrimination in jobs, in education, and other benefits or facilities. And there was very good dictator. He was very friendly to EU and US as well. And when Mr. Sarkozy was the president of France at that time, he had offered him that they're going to send some paramilitary forces to save him. He was in the craft to Saudi Arabia, so we lost him. Secondly, Egypt. Although the movement over there was started in the middle of 2007 from the strikes in factories, and the labor unions, they started that issue, and in small cities first, and after that all that efforts bring this movement to the Tahrir Square. In the fall of Tunisian government, they gave a big momentum to that movement, and Muslim Brotherhood entered forcefully in the situation. And after that, we know Europe and US, they tried their best to save Hosni Mubarak. But ultimately, Mursi is there. Ikhwan al-Muslimin, they got power. In the meantime, in the beginning of 2011, in Yemen, in Bahrain, in Libya, in Syria, the movement was started against the regimes. Then it comes Libya, and there was a news on 4th of October, 4 and 5 of October, there was a very high-level delegation. They visited Tripoli, and two of the commissioners from European Commission, they visited over there, and they signed an agreement with the government of Libya. Gaddafi, until that time, he was a good guy. And I want to tell you, there are a lot of points in that, just I want to mention two of them. The first was the good progress in the negotiation of the bilateral framework, which will establish a very first official and legal relationship between EU and Libya and open up many areas of working together. And one other point was the opening an EU office in Tripoli that should become operational very soon as a demonstration of EU's commitment to establishing a long-term relationship with Libya. It is just a few months before, three months before the attack, and Commissioner Fuel, who was the Commissioner of Foreign Policy of the neighborhood, he said that I welcome agreeing on this cooperation agenda because this is an important first step to solve the challenges. And we know what was the second step was. Miss Hillary Clinton, in December, she said that Gaddafi is the best leader in the regime, in the region over there in African Union. And what happened in 2 months, that he was killed by French and NATO forces. All extremists from different countries, they has been launched over there. And in 6 months, 40 to 50,000 people has been killed, and all infrastructure as well. These are the things which mentions. And if we see just next Bahrain, the 85% of the population is against the regime. They don't have their proper, there is a lot of discrimination in education. They can't get admissions in good colleges, jobs, they can't get good jobs, and other all facilities, and they are demonstrating peacefully, but nobody hear their voice. And there is no any comment from EU side towards them. I met an MEP on this issue, and I did ask him that you are asking always that you are playing games when the majority is against the regime, then you try to help them. Then what's over there in Bahrain? He said that we will help the regime over there, not to the public, because Bahrain is one important station when oil ships and other trading ships, this goes to United States from Persian Gulf. So that government is important for us. So we don't want any change over there. Okay, we will try to settle down the dust, but we will help the regime against the will of public. These are some news. And now in Syria, this is very current situation. Again, France and Great Britain, they are helping over there to the extremist regime, to the extremist powers, the largest opposition militant power, al-Nusra. They are supporting in all means over there. And even other, Germany and other few European countries, they asked to stop the help of those guys over there. But still France and Great Britain are insisting, and they are doing all the stuff what they need. And we know, this is in the papers, that the head of al-Nusra, Abu Muhammad al-Jawlani, he has pledged allegiance to the leader of Al-Qaeda, Imran Saqib. So are we creating one other Osama bin Laden in our neighborhood? I belong to Pakistan, and we are facing the reaction of Taliban in our country, and 30,000, minimum 30,000 people has been killed over there, and any of the institution is not safe from them. Pakistan was the big producer of jihadis on behalf of Saudi and USA against the communism or Russian army in Afghanistan. And we are facing the flame back towards us. Just after 9/11, when Pakistan allowed US to crush that stuff, they bite back to Pakistan. And we are still in the position, daily you can hear in news that dozens of people are being killed and blastings over there. So in that scenario, if we see that behind these jihadis who are fighting in Arab countries, if any state is involved behind that jihadis, or they are launching, because there was an example that when in Pakistan it was needed some jihadis, some high-profile jihadis, Americans did import Sheikh Yassin from Egypt. He was a leader of Muslim Brotherhood. He was in jail in Syria, in Egypt. And he got visa from there. And in Brookland, USA established a mosque and starting recruiting over their jihadis. And they did launch them to Afghanistan. So if there is this type of element here in Europe, any state is behind these jihadis who are going to fight over there in Arabian countries, then we should get ready for the same reaction what we are facing in Pakistan, and as well as USA, even they are too far from that area, from Arabs or from Pakistan or Afghanistan. So we have to rethink our policy towards Arab worlds. And there was a European Union, they have published a book that is a statistical book, maybe you have read it already, the Muslims in Europe. This is about 11 cities. They have mentioned a lot of things, a lot of statistics in it. But just two things I want to inform you about that they said that in 2040, in the continent, 55% population will be Muslims. This is according to the statistics of UN, what they have mentioned in that book. European Union did publish that. So in this scenario, we have to rethink our policy towards Middle East. One other issue, just I have 2 more minutes, I think. One other issue, that always when there are some disagreeable or contentious rulers are ruling some countries. So we start economic sanctions on them. And what the economic sanctions do? They directly affect the public, not to the rulers. The food stuff, the traveling materials, householdings, everything, it is directly related to the population, to the public. So it creates hatred against the sanction operators. So this is very important. So we have to change our policy. Instead of economic sanctions, there should political isolation. The militant involvement should be replaced with table talk, with taking care of their autonomy, and fair deal should be placed instead of double standard policy. Otherwise, we are sowing thorns for our next generations for short-term benefits. And when the extremism goes at certain level, then they will disturb the prosperity and peace of the continent. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary.